Good afternoon, guys. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a lovely weekend. This video is courtesy of one of you guys who mentioned it in the comments, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea for a video. Why I didn't think of it, I do not know. But last week's video was on Napoleons Marengo, and this week's video is on the Duke of Wellington's Copenhagen. So thank you to who suggested this, because otherwise I don't think I would have thought of it, or not until a sort of later date when I would have looked at Copenhagen. But it makes total sense to do Copenhagen this week. And what an incredible horse he was, just like Marengo. I think actually I like Copenhagen even more, just saying. But fascinating horse. Knew very nothing about him. Again, very embarrassing, I know, but knew nothing of his history. But there's some key points I'm realising with these war horses. One, that they have plenty of Arab blood in them. I don't think we use as much Arab, certainly not in the UK anyway. I know around the world Arab is far more popular, but I don't think we have as many Arab horses in this country. But there is something to be said for their stamina, their kind of agility, their kind of agileness, for their longevity as well. Maybe we should be introducing a bit more Arab blood into our horses. Definitely got me pondering. So Copenhagen was a superior war horse. He was the Duke of Wellington's sole charge for the Battle of Waterloo. He also did other battles on Copenhagen, but the Battle of Waterloo is the one that sort of made Copenhagen famous. It was the Battle of Waterloo that kind of gave him this big reputation of being a great war horse, which he was. We actually know that Copenhagen's sire was a stallion called Meteor, and he came second in the Derby in 1786. He was a 15-hand chestnut stallion. He had incredible strength, brilliant stamina. He was brave, he was agile, he was quick thinking, he was sure-footed. He was everything you needed in a war horse. He was bred by the General Grosvenor, who was a nephew to the Earl Grosvenor. Hopefully I'm saying that all right. And he started life out as a racehorse, doing 2 seasons from 1811 to 1812, and he had some success. He won 2 races. I think he was third in about 9. I think he did about 12 races in total, so, a good 2 seasons worth. After his racing career in 1813, he was sent to Spain for Sir Charles Vane. And at this time, Sir Charles was under command of the Duke of Wellington. Now, when Sir Charles ran into some money issues, he had to sell his horses, and Copenhagen was snapped up by the Duke of Wellington, who had him sent home to his stables. The Duke of Wellington supposedly said of Copenhagen, "There may have been faster horses, no doubt many handsomer, but for bottom and endurance, I never see his fellow." And Wellington was a good rider, very capable. He managed Copenhagen very well, because remember, Copenhagen was a stallion. There were lots of stallions back then, but even so, this means that they could be at times be quite boisterous and quite strong and powerful, but they were a good match. Now, it was said that Wellington took Copenhagen out exercising every single day, and I think this is where their incredible bond would have been made. Taking Copenhagen out every single day, he would have understood that horse's character, his way of going, how he liked to be worked. I just think this would have made for a very strong relationship, which is exactly what you needed when going into battle. Wellington also loved to hunt Copenhagen and would be out for hours and hours. Now, this obviously helped make Copenhagen incredibly strong, had phenomenal stamina and endurance, which again would have been ideal for when it came to battles and needing to go for long periods of time. So, like we say, he was working him every day. He was hunting him regularly for long periods of time. This was all part of the making of a great war horse. And supposedly, in the Battle of Waterloo, the Duke of Wellington rode Copenhagen for 17 hours straight. So all that exercising, all that hunting paid off. There's a rather amusing story in which that when Wellington had defeated Napoleon, he jumped down from Copenhagen and gave the horse a very well-deserved pat on the flank, at which point Copenhagen fired a very sharp and fast kick, which narrowly missed Wellington's head. Can you imagine? You've just survived the Battle of Waterloo and your horse nearly finishes you off at the end. As I said earlier, after the Battle of Waterloo, Copenhagen really did become a celebrity, and he went to parades, he went to celebrations with the Duke of Wellington riding him. And you can just imagine the crowds celebrating this incredible war horse. And I could just, I don't know for sure, but I can just imagine this horse would be like walking down, kind of being like, yes, I am incredible. And just, because there are horses out there that love kind of showing off to an audience. And I reckon Copenhagen was that sort of horse, he knew he was special and he knew everyone was there for him. It was said that Copenhagen enjoyed one too many sweet treats, literally cakes and buns. My horse would definitely share Copenhagen's food tastes. Copenhagen was retired at Wellington's Stratfield Saye estate. When the Duke of Wellington became Prime Minister in 1828, he rode Copenhagen down Downing Street, which I absolutely love. In 1836, aged 28, Copenhagen passed away. I just think that is a remarkable age for a horse that had been to many battles. Copenhagen was buried with full military honours at Wellington's country residence. That just showed how important he was, that he deserved to have quite the ceremony when he passed. Interestingly, the United Services Museum, who had Napoleons Marengo on display, asked Wellington, this was a few years after Copenhagen had died, if they could dig him up and display him at the museum. Thankfully, the Duke of Wellington said no. Can you imagine, after a few years digging him up? After Wellington died, his son placed a marble gravestone beside the tree that was planted over Copenhagen's grave. It reads, "Here lies Copenhagen, the charger, ridden by the Duke of Wellington the entire day of the Battle of Waterloo. Born in 1808, died in 1836. God's humble instrument, thou means clay should share the glory of that glorious day." Copenhagen relics were very sought after, and many snippets of his hair was taken from him over the years with and without the permission of the Duke of Wellington, and they were like fashioned into bracelets. Before he was buried, a hoof went missing. Years later, it was restored and returned to the second Duke, who then turned it into an inkstand. There is a fair few statues of the Duke of Wellington and Copenhagen. This first one is the one in Edinburgh. This is another shot of it. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Then the second one, I believe, is the Royal Exchange in Glasgow. Well known because often there's cones on his head and Copenhagen's head. The third one is, I believe, the one from Round Hill Aldershot. And then the fourth one is Hyde Park. So plenty to go and look at. I hope you enjoyed that little video on Copenhagen. What a fantastic warhorse he was. And I love that they really honoured him and appreciated what he had done to survive those battles, to carry Wellington to his safety and to the victory of Waterloo. Remarkable horse. Like all these war horses are, they were just unbelievable.